the session. So that's good. Awesome. So thanks again for joining, and thanks Gautam and SaaS Insider for having me. It's a topic that that's very close to my heart because I do this as one-on-one conversations with a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, specifically now in SaaS. But it's good to do this as a session with a broader community and with other folks who are aspiring, right? So just to give a quick background of what I'll try and cover in this session. We want to talk a little more about addressing those folks in SaaS companies today who are working in SaaS companies today who have the aspiration of starting up sometime down the line, right? So I think that's really the target audience for this discussion. And the context there is for someone like me, right? So prior to obviously starting up Everstage, as Gautam mentioned, I was part of Freshworks. And for about 4 years early on, was part of the founder's office with working with Girish, and then set up the revenue operations globally for the company later on, wherein I worked with the chief revenue officer, Siva. So extremely great experience back at Freshworks, wherein I learned everything to do with SaaS at Freshworks, because prior to Freshworks, I can honestly tell you I had zero exposure to SaaS, right? So just for context, originally I'm a mechanical engineer. My first company was ACC Cements. So I worked in a cement company to start off with. So all of my exposure in SaaS happened after Freshworks, obviously, which also gave me the confidence and leap of faith to start up Everstage recently. So that's the learning that I thought, I'll quickly at least put as high-level points of some of the things that folks in SaaS companies could do over the next, months or years that they're there before they feel ready to start up in SaaS, right? So that's the background of the session. Obviously, we'll try and make it, quick in terms of the session itself, and would love to answer any specific questions or thoughts that you all have. Would love to discuss those. Right. So before we even start off with the session, I think one of the things I just want to make sure for folks who are aspiring in SaaS, hopefully all of you are working in some SaaS company. If you're not, please go find one and join that company before think of starting up. The reason why I say that is in B2B SaaS specifically, it's super important to have some amount of relevant experience. The relevant experience actually supremely helps while you decide to start up, right? And the ideal kind of a SaaS startup today, I think there's so many different options for people. So obviously, if you're working in one, that's great. But if not, I think essentially it'll be great if you're working in companies slightly smaller, which have achieved some kind of product market fit. There's some kind of recurring, go-to-market motion and recurring product velocity that's happening in the company, so that you can learn some of the tricks of the trade of the company, right? So it's good if you're in such a company, or if you know the founders of a very early stage company which is still not yet product market fit. That will also be good if you trust the founders to know what they're doing, etc., so that you spend your time usefully in that company, right? So both of these are great choices of good companies to have. And the reason why I say that is once you join a company which is sufficiently large, then what happens is there's also the whole thing around silos that get formed in the company. Like each function becomes a big silo for the other function. Like marketing becomes a silo for a sales person, and sales becomes a silo for, say, a product team, etc., etc. So it's harder to get information in place, right? So I think maybe if you go to the next slide, we'll kind of talk about why I say that it's important to have, probably a little smaller company to go after, right? And what I call that is, basically track the dollar. So if you've not already done, and I've seen that 90% of the people typically haven't done this, working in SaaS companies. So essentially what I mean by this is you look at your company and try and understand how as a company, you make $1, right, from the customer. And what I mean by that is right from the point where a potential prospect uh, knows that even a company like yours exists, to when they start, engaging with you, to then what engagement sales objections or objections or problem statements that they bring in, which you kind of clarify and ensure that you're the right product or company against a competitor, to finally then they deciding to pay and how they pay that money into you, and essentially also then further look at renewal of that entire business, right? So the entire process, right from that initial prospect to a happy customer, the entire process of how you make that dollar is something that you need to understand very clearly, and that'll really help you whenever you decide to start up. And when I say the entire process, it's not at the surface level. Probably at a surface level, hey, you know what, this is where the lead comes, the sign up happens, this team touches the lead, and then it closes, then it goes to the customer success, etc. Not at that surface level. Go 2 levels deeper. Understand both the people working on it as well as the process that is underlying to get you that $1 of business. So say, for example, if you're in marketing, if you're looking at marketing, understand the campaign that got you that customer to engage with you, right? What were the other campaigns that they engaged prior to actually signing up or engaging with the sales team? After they signed up, who are the other stakeholders that were involved? What are the kind of marketing collaterals that you need to get to the different buyers, stakeholders, to be able to convince them to even engage further, right? And what was the product level intervention that was done in terms of exciting the customer, in terms of whether it be product led, whatever to do with the product led growth. On the sales side, what was the technical, how did you achieve the technical win in terms of ensuring all the requirements of the prospects were solved by your team? Then they decide to buy. Then how did they actually make the purchase, right? Like what tools did they use, the process, how is finance team reconciling all of this? So the entire start to finish of the dollar is what you should all aim to look at in each of your companies, and get a very good context of the people involved in each of those steps, as well as the process, the underlying process involved, so that you first get a complete picture of why you exist as a company, and all the different functions that help you achieve gaining that trust and dollar from the customers, right? So I think that's one of the first things that I would say as part of your jobs in the SaaS companies, to ensure that you get a good hold of. It's difficult while you're all remote. If it would have been easier if you were in the offices, but it's a very powerful exercise, and it will take some time, probably a few months even, for you to sit with each of these teams and understand this entire process. But that's super important for you to go to the next step in terms of aspirationally starting up a company. Next slide. Yeah. So once you've kind of nailed this process, right, and understood why you exist as a company, the next step is to build your core muscle. So you may be an engineer, you may be a marketer, you may be a salesperson, but essentially you need, for whatever function that you are part of, you need to be known for that, right? So so you need to build your own core muscle in that function in terms of depth of understanding. So if you're a marketing person, you may be in the performance marketing team, but understand all the other segments of marketing as well, right? Content marketing, your PR and branding, whether it be SEO, everything to do with marketing. I think it's important for you to get a good understanding and hold of, and basically you need to be known for that as a function in the few years that you're there in the company, right? So and how do you achieve this? Obviously, if you're a small team, you speak with folks, you understand what each of the other person in the team is working on. But also further, not only that, in say if you're a marketing person, go further and join communities, not only communities in India, but even global communities, where you can exchange information, share thoughts, and there are several of those right today in the market. The uh, go to market, especially, there's so many in the market where you have specialized communities for each of these functions. So join those, network with people in the market, be known for something, right? Be known for your particular function, and for that, write uh, stuff on blogs, contribute to those communities, participate in podcasts. So essentially, it's very super important to be known for a particular function, a function where you have a very deep understanding of, uh, and that'll also help you in other things, while even from an ideation standpoint of what you want to start up in SaaS. But this particular aspect of being known for something, having clear depth in a particular function, is also another important aspect in your journey towards starting up in SaaS. The next slide. Yeah. So obviously, you will obviously go deep into one particular function, but all of the other functions, it's something that you'll need to know as a founder, but not something practical for you to go in deep in all of those functions, right? So, but what you need to do is, for everything else, for all the other functions, you need to know who to go to, right? Find the right go-to friends, whether it be in your own SaaS company or in companies outside. Say, for example, you're a salesperson and you want to brainstorm something about design, right? Who do you go to? So while you're doing the track the dollar exercise, I think you'll also identify the kind of people working in each of those steps. So hopefully that will also initiate the process of finding those go-to friends for you in all of these different functions. But basically, again, it's very important to know who to go to in a particular function that you're not personally having a lot of context or depth on. And not only that, you also, by doing the track the dollar exercise, as well as going deep in your particular function, what you'll also realize is you will be able to ask the right questions, right, to these people, because at the end of the day, things won't happen organically. It all comes up with some curiosity, some question that you have, and then that person shares their own perspective on it, and then you further go deeper, right? So I think find those right people, and when you do these exercises around community and track the dollar, you'll be able to ask the right question. Also, the other thing which I kind of missed mentioning in the previous slide on the aspect of going deep, being part of communities, what that also will help you do is understand the different business models of other companies, right? Because essentially, say, even if you're a marketer and your SaaS company is fundamentally, inbound, is probably serving the global SMB, there is a particular marketing setup that serves that business model. But obviously, there are other business models out there in the world, and other companies pursuing, different business models in terms of, just the entire go-to-market sale motion, right? So by interacting with others, you also get to understand, if the same marketing were to be in an enterprise SaaS company, then how different would that be, right? What would be the setups in that particular function? What are the kind of people that are needed? What's the marketing investment that is needed, right? So all of these different aspects, you will get clarity once you start interacting with folks. And as far as possible, in all of those discussions, right from track the dollar to spending time with peers in globally, with in communities, etc., try and have a quantitative perspective to it, right? Like, whatever metrics that are relevant to that particular discussion, try and have those as part of the discussion, because that also gives you perspective. You'll have people say things like, hey, this worked out brilliantly for us. Great. But what does brilliant mean, right? Like, or can we quantify it? What percentage of your revenue comes from there? And what is it scalable? So just try and put metrics at each of those discussion points so that it aligns you and gives you that perspective. Because at the end of the day, when you're discussing about something that you're not aware of, it's very easy to get carried away with some of those big points that are mentioned by the other people without actually realizing the metrics associated with it, right? So it just grounds you and puts that perspective to you for you to better understand whatever discussion that you're having.
Siva, we have the last few minutes of the session. We have a few questions here.
Perfect. So I think the other thing that I've seen, and probably this is something that you can quickly rush through, I think it always helps to have team building experience. And when I say team building, it's not just managerial experience, but more around, hey, how do you work with people and get work done from people? Because again, that's a critical skill set that will come in handy when you start up, right from hiring the right people to also getting work done from other people. So if you can get that experience in your SaaS company, then seek out for it. Obviously, in an early stage company, it's possible for you to get that because with the hopefully with the growth that the company sees, you will be in the right place to also grow together with the company. So you should be able to get that experience. So if you get an opportunity, seek for that team building experience. Next slide.
Right.
Yeah, I think this is one area that a lot of people come and ask me, right? Like, hey, how do I find my potential co-founder? And it's obviously a session on its own, but I think that's probably a pretty hard thing to solve for, because essentially it's like marriage, right? It's like finding the right partner. Pretty much, the first few years of a startup, you're going to spend so much time with the co-founder. There will be a lot of points where conflicts will happen. So you want to make sure that you find the right person. And the thing with finding the co-founder is there's no perfect person for this, just like marriage. But what happens is if you start the process early, it's better, right? So even if you're thinking of starting up probably a year or 2 years down the line, start the process early. Start looking at potential people who you could look at as co-founders, and essentially you just need broadly two sets of people, right? At least you can have more co-founders, but one, basically someone who can help build the product, and two, someone who can help build the distribution. So you could be that person building the product, or you could be the person building the distribution. So you at least need the other one person who could complement your skill sets. But start the process early, simply because it may not be that the person may also evolve within the same kind of timeline as you, right? So say, for example, typically what happens is when you say to people that you want to start 1 year down the line, 2 year down the line, everybody is excited. Yeah, they say, hey, you know what? Yeah, even I want to join you. But then when the time comes closer, it's not 2 years, it's 2 months. People have different priorities in their lives, in their careers, etc. So they may not all fit in with your goals of when you want to start up. So typically the fallouts happen, even with people that you thought could be a potential co-founder. So keep your options open, but start the process early. I think that'll be my biggest advice there on the co-founder. I think there's one last slide. Yeah, I think this also is one thing that I see not getting heard often in the startup world, which, obviously everybody talks about product market fit. But what I also talk to first-time entrepreneurs is founder market fit, right? It's super critical, because what happens is, if you look at all of the history of in B2B SaaS specifically, entrepreneurs who've been successful, whether it be Mark Benioff of Salesforce, or Girish of Freshworks, or for that matter, anybody you take, all the successful entrepreneurs, what you've seen is, they have very deep insight or context on the product that they were building, even before they started building, right? So Mark Benioff understood, about sales tools even before he, established the CRM market. Girish had built 4 support help desk before he started Freshdesk. So essentially, in B2B SaaS, it helps to have good context of the problem that you're solving for. And therefore, the founder market fit is a very important thing. So what is that unique insight that you have on that problem that you're going after to solve, right? I think that is super critical to know and understand. So essentially, look at problems around you, the problems where you have unique insight on. I think it always helps to look at it from a bottom up kind of, looking at which area to go after rather than top down and say, hey, you know what, today the bus thing is in thing is, solving for remote based tools, right? And instead of going from top down, start looking at bottom up of what what insights that you have in a particular area, and go after solving for those. That one not only helps from a problem statement standpoint, also from a product market fit on just your own expertise, right? Say if you're a marketer and you're trying to build a product that it requires heavy enterprise selling, then again, you're not, completely in fitment with the product goal that you have. So even from a sales motion standpoint, try to align with a product market where you as a founder also fit in. So I think those are some of the broad points. Obviously, I know we're a little close to end of time now. So, happy to answer questions right after, but, if any of you want to chat more deeper specific to your context, I know this is an area, as you said, I'm very passionate about. So, happy to engage even offline.
All right, Shivas. Yeah, so we have another session starting in 3 minutes. So what I'll do is I'll collect all